Hello friends, welcome to The Press, your one-stop shop for all things Club World Cup. Today's show is all about new signings. We've got Jobe Bellingham's Borussia Dortmund debut, Real Madrid's new star signing Franco Mastantuono, been practicing that, and Inter Milan's new manager, Christian Chivu's first game in charge. Right, let's get straight into it. We don't mess about on The Press. Let's have a look at the results. So this is how it played out. We've got Flumense against Borussia Dortmund. It was 0-0 in that opening game, but it was a really interesting one. We're going to get into that. River Plate with a 3-1 victory against Urawa Red Diamonds. Then Ulsan HD losing 1-0 to Mamelodi Sundowns. And in the final game, Monterrey getting a draw against Inter Milan. Incredible stuff. Joining me, as usual, the stunning Julian Laron. And we've got a new signing of our own, Niamh Patriziello. Right, let's get you caught up on all the action from Matchday 4. First up, we had Fluminense versus Dortmund, whose only previous competitive game against a Brazilian side was the 1997 Intercontinental Cup final versus Cruzeiro. In that one, Dortmund won 2-0. On this occasion, they were really poor. Fluminense, I was really impressed by them. And all the South American sides have done really well, and they should have won it. They had a really interesting tactic that we're going to explain to you guys in terms of how they were able to create all these chances. Koba with a double save here, the second one being offside. But they were in the ascendancy throughout. Dortmund really poor, and Kovac himself said that they were lucky to get the point. Next up was River Plate against Urawa Red Diamonds, and it was a chance for us to see Franco Mastantuono. The Argentines qualified as the best-ranked South American team, and the opening goal came from Calidio, Niamh, didn't it? Yeah, and I thought his run originally as a second striker to create that space for the left-back was brilliant, and then, of course, took his goal really well. I'd say the second two goals were more consequences of that physicality that River Plate had, and they just outpowered Urawa, who were pretty good in the second half. Yeah, and obviously got themselves a penalty there, but it didn't mean too much, that third goal going in. And I'm not sure what that is. Food, maybe? Cup of tea. Who knows? Cup of tea. Mate, of course it is. The second game in Group F saw South African champions Mamelodi Sundowns take on 2022 Asian Champions League winners Ulsan HD from South Korea. But it nearly didn't happen, didn't it? We had our first delay. Julian,
the players took on the pitch and then...
adverse weather, it was called.
Adverse weather. And we had a delay of an hour, and then Mamelodi really were the better team, so good at moving the ball, great creativity, great finishing here by Reyners. They were all over them. And Ulsan tried, to be fair, to switch a few things tactically to a back five, but there was just one team on the pitch, and the South Africans deserved the win.
They were great. We were sort of waiting to see them, and they delivered, didn't they? Absolutely. And the last game was at Monterrey against Inter. Big questions going into this one for Inter. A new coach in Christian Chivu, but could they bounce back from the Champions League final heartbreak against Monterrey of Mexico? No, they could not. Ramos, at the age of 39, to the fore with a lovely bullet header, Niamh. He's done it his whole career, isn't he?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's really good stuff. But I thought this set piece was really well worked. Obviously something they've practiced. And to be honest with you, it's a good job that they could do a good set piece, because quite disappointing, the performance overall.
Yeah, it was a clunky one, for sure, for Inter Milan. Monterrey in the first half, pretty poor, but they hit the post here. They had a chance in the final seconds of the game as well. And Inter Milan just, couldn't really find their feet, which is not what you want. I think only had 2 shots on target through the whole game. And this might be that last chance, I think, on its way here. Or is it the final moments? Here we go. Yeah, Bastoni just about doing enough, but not the result that Chivu would have wanted. And we'll get into a deeper tactical analysis on that one a little bit later on. So let's take a look at what's being said out there on social media, and there is a lot of chat about a former Real Madrid player in Ramos who scored that header, and we will show you how exactly he seems to keep scoring these headers a little bit later on in the show. But the big talking point, of course, as well, is Mastantuono, who, of course, playing for River Plate, but is on his way to Real Madrid. And Alonso's been speaking about him. He said, we're happy with Franco because he's a kid with a fantastic present and a brutal future. I was impressed by the conversation I had with him about his ambition and maturity. So Real Madrid are on the horizon. They will be in the show tomorrow. So much to talk about when it comes to Alonso. And, of course, Trent maybe getting his debut. But let's talk about Mastantuono. River Plate against Uruguay Red Diamonds was a chance to see exactly why Real Madrid paid 45 million euros for him. So, Julian, did he justify the price tag?
I think we were a little bit disappointed, weren't we, about his performance overall. And again, he's only 17. This is the first time really that he played in a big tournament like this, and a bit like Estevao the other day with Palmeiras. I think the hype was so big that I think we just wanted to see a little bit more. And we will see a clip of his best moment. He's involved in the first goal, as we mentioned earlier, but probably a bit more, I think, would have been great.
Yeah, let's have a look at some of those clips then, because it was one where, yeah, sort of flattered to deceive a little bit. He's kind of known for his take-ons. And what kind of player is he then, Niamh?
Yeah, he's certainly a player that likes to cut inside on that left foot and maybe wants to start the attack a little bit and take control in games, which he did really well there, sort of orchestrating the beginning of that. I do think it's difficult to say based on this game, purely because I don't think him or Calidio was brought into the game much in the second half. I think River Plate actually had 70% possession in the first half. In the second, it was 45. Right. So I think that sort of suggests what you need to know. I think as a team, they were just pushed back or maybe didn't want to leave first gear in the second half and were maybe preserving for some of the later games. But I think, yeah, Mastantuono definitely showed glimpses of talent, but I think it was because Calidio on that left was the one who was responsible for creating space for Acuna. On that right-hand side, Mastantuono didn't really have a role like that, so it would have been fascinating if he had, because we could have potentially seen what he would do with Trent.
Yes, because I think that's the big question here. We need to talk about Mastantuono because he's moving to this Real Madrid team that is absolutely packed with stars. And we've just seen from the clips there that desire to go inside. He is a player that makes things happen, great at dribbling. For a 17-year-old, does not look like a 17-year-old. Sort of big and strong, is able to drive with the ball. And he's done brilliantly for River Plate. And when it comes to take-ons, he's generally having 7 dribbles a game, and he's normally got a sort of 50% success record on that. In this game against Red Diamonds, he had 6 dribble attempts and 3 that were successful. So a similar kind of record. But when he goes to Real Madrid, he's going to have to step up in a big way. Yeah. And is it the right move for him? I'm
not sure, really. I mean, let's put aside the fact that they paid a lot of money for a 17-year-old, like they did for Vinicius, like they did for Rodrigo, like they did for Hendrik. Yeah. It's not the first time. But what we've seen with all those players coming from South America as well is a time to adapt. It's a different culture, it's a different country, it's a different team. At least the language is the same, but he will need a bit of that time. And also, if he plays again on that right-hand side for Real Madrid, there's already Rodrigo there, who might not still be there next season, but they will. Arda Güler is a left-footed right winger. Brahim Diaz is a left-footed right winger. And I think Mastantuono can also play as a 10 and more centrally because he's so good on the ball, like we've been saying. So there's other positions where he can play. I'm just not sure right now he's ready for that.
Just a lot of traffic there. We spoke to Barbara Fritzler yesterday, the reporter for River Plate, and she suggested that he's more of a midfielder than a winger. Gallardo not putting him out there, but utilising him out there. But if he is to kind of play on that right-hand side, what's that right-hand side going to look like? Because you've got Trent involved in all of that as well. And if he wants to come inside, is he going to go into traffic? How's this going to work?
Yeah, no, it's a very good point, and it'll be interesting to see who's then also going to have the responsibility for allowing him to do that, allowing Trent to get up the pitch as well. Valverde's going to have his work cut out. But one thing I'll say from a sort of human side of things, a lot of these young talents that go to Real Madrid, whether they play or not massively for Real Madrid, I don't think their talent is hindered. So for him as a 17-year-old, this is Real Madrid. And I think the excitement of it and the ambition of it, I don't think there is a great deal of risk in it, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I remember chatting to Faisal from SDS, some people might know about him, big Real Madrid fan, and we went through his squad, and I would go, what about this player? Should you let him go or not? He'd go, he's quality. Next one, he's quality. Even if they were starting, if they weren't starting. So they're littered with those stars, but I wonder about his development. Someone like Hendrik. Yeah. I was in the green room earlier, chatting to Kleberson, World Cup winner Kleberson, and I was asking him, what should Hendrik do going into this year before the World Cup? And he says he needs a loan move, and I said, where should he go? And he said, maybe back to Brazil. for someone like Mastantuono, if he's not going to get the games, because every game really matters with Real Madrid, and you've got all these players you've got to get in the team, is it the right move for his development? Because he's not going to get the minutes.
But it's the same question for Arda Güler, who is a similar talent to Mastantuono, similar profile, okay, Turkey and Argentina, but it's the same. And for a long time, we thought he's not playing enough, and I still don't think that he's played enough since making that move. Yeah, training every day with all the superstars is good, and you're still improving and you're progressing. I just think it's difficult because he's the best club in the world, and it was his dream. He could have gone to PSG, he could have gone to other clubs. He went there. Like we said, they paid a lot of money, but sometimes the dream doesn't really happen exactly like you want.
That's a really good point, I guess. You know, training with those kind of players is obviously going to be helpful. But again, if you're not starting, once you get to Thursday, Friday, you're not really involved, are you?
Yeah, I suppose it will be a hindsight thing, really, because, you know, in his mind, he will believe that he will be able to start and that he's good enough for it. And I think the price they've paid suggests that they see that potential, and it's almost like this is the only way to figure it out, is to make it happen. Okay. And as a player, you've got to take that risk to have that maximum reward of playing for Real Madrid.
Yeah, I think we've been so excited about these wonder kids, and I think they have been really, really hyped up.
Yeah.
Thus far, maybe not delivered. Let's move on then to Inter Milan's matchup against Monterrey. And it was, of course, Christian Chivu's first game in charge of Inter Milan. And, of course, he had big shoes to fill. Chivu's spoken about wanting mobility, symmetry, and wanting to confuse the opponent. So, did Inter achieve this? Well, they didn't with the result, did they? But I think in terms of the tactics, what I wanted to ask you, Niamh, was when it comes to Inter Milan and Inzaghi's Inter Milan, what are the things that you think about before we touch on what Chivu did in this game?
Yeah, my first sort of things are the centre-backs and the midfielders often rotating in the build-up quite quickly as well, that rotation. And almost with a lot of the Inzaghi movements, it's a pattern of play that triggers the next pattern of play. And there's a lot of what I think is muscle memory football that was being played, especially throughout last season, where maybe the space that opens up as a consequence of, let's say, Bastoni going forward and perhaps Mkhitaryan going back. And then you could perhaps look at the space then when DiMarco gets the ball to him, he might look to make that pass diagonally through to sort of Bastoni or Martinez straight away without even thinking about it, because that's where he knows the runner will be and the space will be.
Yeah.
So that's certainly something that sticks out for me.
Yeah, I think it's great that you touched on those two centre-backs, because when we think of Inter Milan, we think of 3-5-2. I think the last time that Inter Milan didn't play three at the back was 2019. You've got to think of Conte, of course, and you think of Inzaghi as well. And what we have seen, as you say, is that ability for Pavard or for Bastoni to just go, which has felt really, really unique and been part of the great moments with Inter Milan. And let's remember, this is a really good team that's just had a very difficult, very, very difficult month, painful month. And we can see from what Chivu did, he didn't go too far away from it. It was really, really interesting. We can see some of the runs from Pavard, Bastoni and Niamh. I've never seen Niamh more happy than when there's a moment of skill from Bastoni, which we'll show you in just a second. But Pavard did exactly what this Inter Milan side has done under Inzaghi, having that freedom to make those runs. So why did it sort of fall down for Inter Milan? Because a lot of the elements were generally the same for them, Julian. What do you think kind of fell down for them in this? Because this is a bad result.
It is not a good result. Yeah, we thought for a long time the build-up was too slow, the ball moving too slow, and I think Chivu on the touchline at times when the camera panned onto him seems a little bit like, I'm not sure what's happening in here. And they've got quality players much better than Monterrey, who are not that great of a team, really. Yeah. So eventually they came back to the game. They should have won it. Their expected goals is over 2.5. So they had enough there to win it. But for a long time, it was a bit slow from that build-up. And there was no Çalhanoğlu, who's a big part of this team. And Aslani is a good player, but it's not the same. We said DiMarco was on the bench. No Dumfries, who was such a key player in everything good that Inter Milan did, especially with the ball, and you replace him with Darmian, again, very different profile. So it was not their strongest team possible, and that's what maybe they were a little bit stuttering at the start of the game.
Yeah, the tempo was really, really slow. In terms of those changes, Asllani, Darmian came in, Augusto on the left-hand side, Esposito as well, but it was all enforced. There wasn't any huge changes from Kivo, which we'll talk about him in a second. Let's talk about the goals, because Sergio Ramos at 39 with a bullet header. Monterrey were hanging on a little bit, although it was pretty tepid and the tempo was pretty poor. But this is a cracking header from Ramos, and you just wonder how he does it. He's got over 100 career goals. He's just always had that knack, hasn't he, Duke?
Yeah, incredible on set pieces. I think Sommer should do much better there. First, Acerbi loses the marking, then Bastoni is beaten in the air. But for me, Sommer, the ball goes behind his back, under his arm, sorry. For Ramos, the timing is great, at his age, the celebration. It's pretty remarkable how fit he still is.
Yeah, he did a little Sue there, or see there,
almost,
Ronaldo, yeah.
He seemed to change his mind and then just shoot his
got on
number,
it, didn't he? Right,
I can't really do it, I'm not...
The header was great. How did he do it? That is the huge question when it comes to Ramos. Well, we can reveal on the press exactly how he's able to score these bullet headers. Here he is. Yeah, he's got to work the shoulders. Of course he's got to work the shoulders. There's got to be a camera. Who's holding the camera? Is it on a tripod? So many questions. He's working the arms. Of course he's working the arms. And we watched this in the green room, and Julian, you got incredibly twitchy. You didn't enjoy this, did you? This made you wince a bit. But this is the one. This is how you do it.
This is the one, the neck. We love the neck. Obviously, for the header, the neck is very important, obviously. And I just can't wait to see your video tomorrow, James.
Yep.
Of you in the gym doing your neck.
Absolutely. This is my favourite one. Incredible stuff.
I mean, still a great athlete, really.
Clearly, yeah. And that also, yeah, I think that's when you started to go, can we stop watching this now? Actually, I'm going to ask, can we get away from it now? So that's how he was able to score the goal. Of course, it did finish 1-1, and it was a very cute free kick from Inter Milan. And there were looks, there were winks, there were eyebrow raises. It was clever stuff from Inter Milan, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, it was. It's obviously something that they've pre-prepared, but I think as well it's something about the way Inter Milan play. Some of their best stuff actually feels very much like routines that they practice, even when it's open play moves that they do. I've always sort of noticed it's all about creating traps as well, and there was a bit of deception in that as well, in terms of he sort of goes to as if he's going to send a quicker ball in and then sort of chips it over. So yeah, it was very clever.
OK, let's get you smiling, because you're a Bastoni fan. And you were thinking, do something, because it's going to make me look good. Well, get ready to look at the camera, because Bastoni did do this bit of skill. And Neve came running around the corner going, there's a Bastoni clip. Talk us through this one, then.
I was actually very indifferent about it. It's brilliant. It's classic Bastoni, obviously, with that move forward. Has to do a bit of improv, so decides to do a pirouette. Little cheeky nutmeg as well, but unfortunately, I think it was a difficult one for Barella to sort of dip his toe onto, or that would have been the best goal of the tournament so far.
So the question all Inter fans want to know is Kivu the right man for the job? How are we feeling about this one? Because there's some red flags, it feels like, with Kivu. I mean, those are big shoes to fill. How do you feel about his past and now him stepping into his present?
That's his second job as a number one on the bench, really. Before he'd been coaching the youth team at Inter Milan. What we saw at Parma is 3 wins and 7 draws for 3 defeats, so not great, but he kept them up, which was the job halfway through the season, no problem. I just think this is a massive club, but at least he knows the club. He's been there as a player, as a great player. He won the treble, obviously. With Mourinho, he worked under great managers too, where he would have learned a lot from, and then you always need a chance at some point, right? So why not now, and why not with this team that you will have to rebuild a little bit? But like we've been saying, a team that is also has a lot of certainties of how to play, and he's a back three guy too. So on that level, there's not going to be many changes tactically.
Yeah, I mean, I was disappointed. I thought there would be more changes. I think it's a debate, isn't it? Do you make too many changes? I was in the green room with Christian Vieri, and he was saying, if it's all working out for you, why would you change it? But this is an ageing squad. He's got to kind of make it his own as well, otherwise kind of people will turn on him. He spoke about mobility, symmetry, confusion, maybe a bit of confusion, but I mean, overall, the tempo wasn't great. He's managed 13 games for Parma, and really, they wanted Fabregas, didn't they?
Yeah, I think the issue is, for 4 years now, Inzaghi's built a team of specialist players, so perhaps not the most standout names across Europe for individual reasons, but their ability to play in that system. And we saw a few vulnerabilities and weaknesses of even the better players like Çalhanoğlu and DiMarco all throughout the end of last season. And so the battle is now, do you go all out and do a rebuild and just get it done? Or do you bring someone in for now who just sort of manages the ship, who's very much he understands that club, loves that club, would be willing to maybe be selfless for the club and do the role he has to do, whilst they've got in mind what they want the rebuild to be. That's the sort of idea I'm getting from this.
Let's go a little bit closer here. Joining us is someone who was at the Rose Bowl today, watching that 1-1 draw up close. Soraya Shiraz joins us right now. Soraya, how are you? You're in the mix zone. How are the fans feeling? And what were the comments from the manager after? Oh wow, we're in the tunnel. Wow. Talk us through it. What's the mood down there?
We're here. Players get interviewed. It's been absolutely manic, but it's been an incredible reaction. Loads of fans came out. It was an incredible atmosphere. Kivu today was quite nonchalant, quite to himself, quite assured. He was cool, calm and collected until there was like losses of possession on the pitch, where then he would scream and get angry at players. But besides that, I saw quite a man who was studying his team today and a man who didn't want to give too much away.
I mean, that body language, I guess the juxtaposition of Inzaghi, who we saw in that Champions League final, kind of screaming for a bit, then kind of taking his jacket off, like all sorts going on. How do you think the fans are going to react to Kivu? He's obviously a legend at the club, but, I mean, Inzaghi did so well, it could have turned pretty quickly. And if he's a bit calm, that might be something that might not click with the fans. How are the fans feeling about it?
I think the fans are conflicted at the moment. I mean, their team just got to a Champions League final. It didn't go the way it was planned. They loved the manager. There was something being built. As Neve said, there was patterns of play. There was something that was happening here at Inter Milan. And I think now we're in a bit of an area of a bit of unknown. What can this team now achieve under Kivu? What can this team do better to get to another Champions League final? What can this team do to just play better and get the best out of their players on the pitch? So I don't think it's more so the fans being negative. I just think the fans are a little bit impatient to see what can this manager do that the last manager hasn't been able to do with these players. So it's intriguing. I spoke to Mkhitaryan. He said, you know, we've still got a lot to learn. We've only really had a week. And this manager is very different, and that's what he said. So I think it's an adjustment period, and in football we have to be patient, and that's not always the case.
There's not much time, sure, between this game and the next one against Urawa. What do you think could change from an Inter Milan point of view between the two games?
I think, one, they spoke of the heat. So they know what it's like to play in the heat. They know what it's like to play at the Rose Bowl now. So one, they've got the first match under their belt. That gives them a little bit of comfortability. Secondly, I think they know what they didn't do. Mkhitaryan, Thuram, all these players said we weren't clinical. And if we were clinical, we would have won the match. We were losing the ball in areas we shouldn't lose the ball, and we held possession and didn't do a lot with that possession. So for me, they're speaking candidly about what they know isn't good enough, but they have faith that they know that they can work on that. And I always say a problem addressed can be a problem easily solved. So I think we do need to give them some time, and the next match will be very telling of the direction that they're heading in.
Soraya, superb stuff. Thank you so much for giving us that little bit of extra insight on what is happening down at the Rose Bowl today. Amazing stuff. So, Fluminense's draw with Dortmund, it meant every South American side in the competition remains undefeated. And this one, we saw the Brazilians had a lot of joy using a tactic that had 40-year-old centre-back Thiago Silva at the heart of it. First question, a bit of a celebration here, because I think when people are thinking about this tournament, you're wondering, how are the teams from the different continents going to get on? Obviously, the European sides generally considered to be the favourites going into this tournament. But for them all to remain undefeated and playing against some European opposition, it's been really impressive, the South Americans.
Yeah, you're right. I think we had high expectations of what the Argentines and the Brazilians could do, and we watched that with precise eyes. And I think we were very happy with what they did. Very impressed with some of the ball movement, some of the tactics that they used, some of the individual players' qualities, collectively too. They were very well structured, very well drilled, some more physical like Boca and River that we saw. the Brazilian maybe more as a Brazilian style, but I think we knew before the tournament that they would be the one that potentially could compete and challenge the European sides. And I think they've showed that already. There's still a long way to go to see if a River or Palmeiras can go all the way and win it. But certainly, I think they could cause them problem.
And the different tactical styles, that's what it's been so much fun watching all these games, because you just never know what to expect. So you've got to have a keen eye, and we're trying to do that. And it occurred when it came to this game, because what I really loved from Fluminense in this one was how they were able to stretch the pitch. They were always really focused in going down the sides, didn't go through the middle at all in this one. And what happened was, from the formations we can see here, is that Thiago Silva was at the heart of this in terms of creating some space, because the Borussia Dortmund team, obviously without the ball, wanted to be quite compact. But what they did is Silva would drop back really, really deep here. And what it did is it stretched this Dortmund team. We can show you exactly how it played out on the pitch with some clips here. And there's moments where Thiago Silva's literally not in shot. Let's see if we can have a quick look at it here. So really focusing down that right-hand side a lot of the game. Arias had a really, really great game for them. You can see how Dortmund are really, really compact here. Now, you can't see Thiago. You cannot see Thiago Silva. And you would expect him to kind of be where that arrow was. But he's so deep here, and it's kind of a baiting of the press to a point, but in quite a comfortable nature. And it stretched out this Dortmund team. And from there, they were able to work down the side, and they got a lot of joy. Again, out of shot. He's not even there. Dropping deep, it'll take a second because, I mean, you know, he's got enough experience. He's not nervous, I don't think. But it stretched them out, and they got so much joy getting down the sides. They should have won this game, in my opinion. 14 shots to 7. And by able to stretch it there, and also those spaces in between as well. It was really, really great stuff, and something that I haven't seen. And during this tournament, we've seen teams go over, like Boca did yesterday, and on this occasion going down the right-hand side. And John Arias there, he was the superior player of the match in this one. And he had some good moments, but the output obviously wasn't there because it finished 0-0, right? Yeah,
the end product from Arias, who's a very quick player, good technically, was just a thing missing. And it's a bit of a shame because you got into good positions, and then either the cross the quality was not good enough. He chose to shoot when he could have crossed the ball. And we see that clearly the idea, as you said, James, very rightly, to attract and stretch the Borussia Dortmund organisation, and then to use his space on that right-hand side. They played there massively. You see here, there, again, all that space in front of him. And the last moment in this clip is the most telling one. But again, I'm not sure if the shot is the right option there. So a lot went down his side. It's just a shame that there was not enough quality in. Yeah,
it was the final output, wasn't it, Neve? Because it got into good areas, had a few shots, kind of went for it, but yeah, just not that clinical nature, which could hurt them if obviously they've got to score goals to get through into the next round.
Yeah, not just that though, but maybe even just a little bit of his movement on the ball. He could have made it a little bit easier for himself as well, with where he sort of moved it and then had the shooting opportunity. But I think that was sort of indicative of the way that they were playing anyway. A lot of their shots were from more adventurous positions. So.
Yeah. Let's talk about Jobe Bellingham, because Jobe Bellingham, well, he made that move to Dortmund recently, and we're going to talk about if that was the right move or not. But let's talk about his performance first. Didn't start the game, but came on, and you can see some of the potential.
Yeah.
You can see some of the great bits of movement, but it could have been a horror show for him early doors. His first action could have been to walk off the pitch.
It could have been sent off, I guess. Yeah, you just see the excitement, the hunger that he wanted to show and prove, and it's a big game. You know, he's walking into his brother's steps, obviously, who played there 5 years ago with Dortmund, where it kind of all started for him after Birmingham. And yeah, maybe just a little bit too much of that kind of excitement. But after that, we saw the quality on the ball and what he can bring to this team. You see it there. It was just a little
Is it a red?
bit at the time. It could have been. It could have been.
He got away. First challenge, isn't it? You're allowed the first one, aren't you?
Yeah. Exactly.
You loved this about him as well. Dropping into different areas. This is kind of more the area that he picks up for Sunderland a lot of time. But you loved the scanning here, Julian.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, you see it. We will see a bit later how many times he looks around himself before receiving the ball, and the ball could have come to him quicker and earlier from Ryerson, but it was just all about his awareness and everything that was around himself, getting that bigger picture of where opponents and teammates were. He looked 7 times around him in 3 seconds, which I think at that age, he only turns 20 in September, so not that long ago. I think is a really good indication of how good he could be.
So the question is, of course, Jobe Bellingham, is this the right move for him going to Dortmund? Because I think you can put it out there that if you've got a superstar brother if your first names have the same first letter, when you run around the pitch, you both kind of play in midfield and have the same kind of gait, and you kind of want to get out of the shadow of him, going to Dortmund, that's going into the shadow, is it not?
I think he'd be in the shadow of him regardless. It's what every time he's brought up, his brother's brought up. So I think for him, he's just got to own that and just be his own player on the pitch. I think what was really interesting to see with Dortmund was that they wanted to play a lot of their football on the ground through midfield. They had the options to potentially go direct with Adeyemi and Brandt in the first half, but they didn't do it as much as I thought they would. So it's maybe a style of play. And when they get a bit quicker with that, with their youthful players, what I liked about him was how calm he was with the ball and aware he was as well of what was around him. So as Dortmund speed up the play with their young talent, this could be a really good spot for him to be in. And maybe he thought he needed this sort of level before he ventures to his next, and he's seen how it's benefited someone very close to him. So.
Yeah, I'm on the fence with this one because I saw him at the Championship playoff final, and you could see the potential. We've seen it from those clips as well. In terms of the position that he'll play at Sunderland, I've seen him play up front actually against my team QPR. I got QPR in. And then he's played in that 10 at times, but this year, more so on that left-hand side in that kind of 8 position. So my question kind of is, with Dortmund and the amount of midfielders they've got, I've just got a couple written down here. Gross, Chukwuemeka, is a really talented player. Nemecha, Brandt, Sabitzer, and there's a few youngsters there as well. Where do you think he'll play, and will he play straight?
Yeah, it's a great question. I don't know. We will have to wait and see. I mean, Jude arrived and straight away was kind of bossed up midfield. I think maybe Job could be the same job. I think, in a way, it's your brother worked out. He worked out for there. You know the club. You know the environment. You know he's good for young players usually. So I can see why the family decided to go the same way. I agree with you in the sense that, again, there would be a lot of pressure because you are the brother of Jude, and fans would expect you to do the same kind of thing. But
it's hard, isn't it?
Yeah, it is hard. Everywhere, I agree with Niv. Everywhere we would have gone, though, we would have spoken about Jude and the differences too. Yeah,
and the overall pathway of a player to go from a Championship team to the Bundesliga, I think is a really good move for a lot of players. We've seen that trodden path, and then maybe you might want to come back to the Premier League, or maybe even not, might head over to Real Madrid. Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah? OK.
Yeah.
So is it a good move or a bad move? What are we saying?
I think it's a good move.
Come
He's
on.
gone to a club playing Champions League football, but there's not going to be a ridiculous amount of pressure on him. I think that's...
Let's be positive.
Let's be positive.
Yeah.
We're going to be positive. Go on, Jobe. You can do it. OK, so all the talk in the next game was Mamelodi Sundowns against Ulsan, and it was all about Ikram Reyners, who was running rampant in this game. But Julian, because he's got a keen eye, he's got two actually, he wanted to talk about someone else during the game that caught your eye, and tactically we saw something that we weren't really expecting, were we?
Yeah, no, and again, we go back to all the different tactics that we've seen so far in this tournament, which has been great, but Reina scored the winning goal. He could have had a hat-trick, 2 goals disallowed, but it was all about Teboho Mokoena, who's one of the best midfielders in Africa, so this is not a surprise, but it's how he dropped into between the two centre-backs to kind of organise the play, dictate the tempo of the game, but then also realising and being aware of the space in front of him. We see him there, we tracked him. He found himself from starting that move to being in the box of Ulsan, and he would do that all the game long. You see him there on the ball again, finding a pass that breaks 2 lines of Ulsan, and it's not the best touch from his teammate, but after that they recovered the ball, and he was at the heart of everything, linking everything together and making that goal happen, because we split it up, because there's 25 or 26 passes from Mamelodi Sundowns. An amazing team goal, really, with, again, Mokoena with that circle at the heart of everything, moving the ball from right to left until you accelerate and you find exactly what makes the difference in this game, and that through ball that Reyners would put inside. So Mokoena at the heart of it all, really, and it's great to see a player a bit old school, you know what Pep Guardiola used to do, really, dropping in between the two centre-backs, and then the finish and the last pass are wonderful.
It's kind of old, it's so old school, it's new school, and there's the goal there, and we're kind of doing him a disservice, really. 700 passes in the game, utterly dominated the game, and they played with a zip as well. I'm really looking forward to seeing them
Very
again.
enjoyable team.
Right, let's take one last look at what's going on the social media board before we go. And here it comes. Lots of Mamelodi reactions to their victory. It's like all iconic stuff, isn't it? And it's great to see them playing. They could cause a real stir in this tournament. They've got that first victory. They are right up there and got a real chance to get through into the knockout stages. And then who knows? Come on, Mamelodi Sundowns. We're all Sundowns, aren't we? So this is what's coming up later today, and it's a beast of a day. Manchester City versus Wydad AC. That's at 5 p.m. You've got Real Madrid, so many talking points. We'll be covering it all on the press, against Al Hilal at 8 p.m. Pachuca versus FC Salzburg at 11 p.m. and Al Ain against Juventus at 2 a.m. And crucially, the press at 4:30. Look, it's me, Mum! Look, Mum, it's me with Messi and Jobe Bellingham. Amazing stuff. Sorry, I got a bit excited there. So that is all we have today from the press. Massive thank you to you both. I'll see you both bright and early this evening, tomorrow morning. But you can watch all the games, of course, on DAZN, exclusively on DAZN. We'll see you tomorrow on the press.